The ship was dying. Captain knew this as she watched the warning lights flash red across her console. The pale horizon had been a proud vessel once, fast and strong, built for exploring the unknown edges of space. Now it drifted through the darkness like a wounded animal, bleeding air and fuel into the void. 3 days ago, they had found them. Closed her eyes and remembered. Her ship had been on a simple patrol mission near the border territories when 6 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel and opened fire without warning. The attack lasted only 12 minutes. In those 12 minutes, lost 40% of her crew, her main weapons array, and her FTL drive. They had escaped only because the thought they were already dead. "Captain," said her first officer from the navigation station. His voice was tired but steady. "I have finished the calculations. At our current speed, the nearest Allied station is 60 light-years away. Without FTL, that journey would take us several lifetimes." Nodded slowly. She had expected this news, but hearing it still felt like a blade in her heart. "However," continued, pulling up a star map on the main screen, "there is another option. Sol system. The human. It is only 3 days away at speed." The bridge went quiet. Every officer turned to look at, then at. "Earth," said the chief engineer from her station near the back. She was covered in grease and burn marks from trying to keep the ship alive. "But Captain, humans are classified as pre-contact. The Galactic Council has forbidden any species from approaching them. They are primitives. They barely discovered space travel 300 years ago." "I know the rules," said, "but rules will not save my crew. Rules will not repair our ship." She stood from her command chair and looked at the faces around her. Some were bandaged. Some were pale with exhaustion. All of them had lost friends in the attack. "We go to Earth. We ask for help. If the Council wants to punish me later, they can. But first, I will keep my people alive." No one argued. The journey to Sol system felt longer than 3 days. Spent most of her time walking through the damaged sections of the ship, talking to her surviving crew members. She helped carry supplies. She sat with the wounded in the medical bay. She listened to their fears and their grief, and she promised them that she would find a way home. At night, when the ship was quiet, she allowed herself to doubt. The humans were supposed to be primitive. Their technology was centuries behind the rest of the galaxy. What could they possibly offer? A place to die more comfortably, a grave on a strange world. But there was no other choice, so pushed her doubts aside and kept moving forward. On the 3rd day, the pale horizon entered Sol system. Was the first to notice something wrong, or rather, something unexpected. "Captain," he said, his voice suddenly sharp, "I am detecting organized communication signals throughout the system, encrypted channels, patrol routes." He looked up from his console, his face pale. "This is not a primitive system. This is a defended system." Stepped closer to the main screen. What she saw made her breath catch in her throat. Ships, dozens of ships moving in formation around the outer planets. Orbital stations hanging like jewels in the darkness. Energy signatures that burned brighter than anything in the database for humans. "This is impossible," whispered. "Our records say humans should have basic chemical rockets, maybe early fusion drives. This is a military fleet." Before could respond, the communication system crackled to life. A voice spoke in broken but understandable galactic common. "Unidentified vessel, this is Earth Defense Station. State your intentions or be intercepted. You have 60 seconds to respond." His hand trembled slightly as she reached for the communication panel. She had prepared herself for many things: rejection, confusion, perhaps even primitive hostility. She had not prepared for this. The humans were supposed to be children playing with fire. Instead, they sounded like soldiers. "Earth Defense Station," said, keeping her voice calm. "This is captain of the scout vessel Pale Horizon. We are damaged and request emergency assistance. We mean no harm to your world or your people." There was a pause. Then the voice returned, warmer this time but still cautious. "Vessel, we are dispatching a patrol ship to your location. Do not change course. Do not power any weapons. Cooperation will be met with hospitality. Resistance will be met with force. Do you understand?" "We understand," said, "Thank you." The channel closed. Turned to her. "Captain, I am detecting an approaching vessel. It is fast, very fast, and it is—" He stopped, checking his readings twice. "It is larger than our ship, significantly larger." Watched the main screen as the human patrol ship came into view. It was beautiful in a brutal way, all sharp angles and armored plates, bristling with weapons that glowed with barely contained power. It moved through space with the confidence of a predator. "That ship should not exist," said quietly. "According to our records, humans should not be capable of building something like that for another 1,000 years." Did not respond. She was too busy staring at the vessel that was now positioning itself alongside the pale horizon, dwarfing her wounded ship like a wolf standing beside a wounded deer. But the wolf did not attack. Instead, a message appeared on their screen, written in Galactic Common. "Welcome to Sol System. Follow us. Help is waiting." Let out a breath she did not know she had been holding. "What do we do, Captain?" asked. Looked at her crew, at their tired faces and hopeful eyes. They had come here expecting nothing. They had found something unexpected. Whether that something was salvation or a new kind of danger, she did not yet know. "We follow them," she said, "and we pray that the humans are as kind as they seem." The pale horizon turned slowly and began to follow the human ship deeper into Sol System, toward the small blue planet called Earth, toward a future that could not predict. Behind them, the stars watched in silence, and somewhere in the darkness, the Dominion continued its march of conquest, unaware that the universe was about to change. The human patrol ship guided them through Sol System for nearly 6 hours. During that time, and her crew watched in stunned silence as they passed wonders that should not have existed. There were mining operations on the asteroid belt, massive machines that chewed through rock and extracted metals with terrifying efficiency. There were habitats orbiting the gas giants, spinning rings of light and life where millions of humans apparently lived and worked. There were shipyards building vessels larger than anything had ever seen, skeletons of steel and fire taking shape in the darkness. "How is this possible?" asked for perhaps the 10th time. "The Galactic Council has been observing Earth for 200 years. Their reports say humans are primitive, divided, struggling with basic planetary problems." Shook her head slowly. Either the Council was wrong or the humans wanted them to be wrong. Said nothing. She was beginning to understand something important. The humans had been hiding, and they had been hiding very, very well. Their destination was Orbital Station, a massive ring-shaped structure orbiting Earth at a distance that made the blue planet look like a marble. As the pale horizon approached the docking bay, saw dozens of other ships already present. Cargo vessels, patrol craft, and warships that gleamed with deadly promise. The docking process was smooth and professional. Human technicians guided them into a bay with hand signals and radio commands, their movements calm and practiced. When the ship finally stopped and the engines went silent, felt a strange mix of relief and fear. They had arrived. Now came the hard part. A delegation was waiting for them at the airlock. At the front stood a woman in a crisp military uniform, her black hair pulled back in a tight bun, her eyes sharp but not unkind. Behind her stood soldiers in armor, medical personnel with equipment, and engineers already eyeing the damaged hull of the pale horizon. The woman stepped forward and extended her hand, a human gesture of greeting that had read about in cultural files. "Captain," the woman said in perfect Galactic Common, "I am Admiral, Commander of Earth's First Fleet. Welcome to humanity. I apologize that your arrival was not under better circumstances." Took the offered hand and shook it carefully. The Admiral's grip was firm and warm. Admiral, I must be honest with you. We did not expect any of this. Our records indicate that your species is primitive, smiled. It was a knowing smile, the smile of someone who had heard this many times before. Yes, we know what the galaxy thinks of us. We have worked very hard to maintain that illusion. She gestured for and her crew to follow her into the station. As they walked through clean, bright corridors, explained. About 150 years ago, she said, we detected a probe orbiting our moon. It was small, well hidden, but our astronomers found it anyway. When we studied it, we realized two things. First, that we were not alone in the universe, and second, that whoever sent the probe was watching us like scientists watch animals in a cage. The Galactic Council observation probes, said quietly. Exactly, we captured the probe, we studied it, we learned things. Smile faded slightly. We learned about faster-than-light travel, we learned about energy weapons, and we learned about the Dominion which has been conquering species across the galaxy for thousands of years. They entered a large observation room with windows that showed the Earth below. It was beautiful, thought. Blue oceans, green lands, swirling white clouds, a peaceful world hiding a warrior civilization. We realized that the galaxy was dangerous, continued. We also realized that if we announced ourselves, we would become a target before we were ready. So we made a decision. We would stay hidden. We would let the galaxy think we were primitive, and we would build. Build what? Asked. Turn to face them fully. Everything, ships, weapons, stations, colonies. We expanded into our system secretly. We developed technology that the galaxy has never seen, and we waited. Waited for what? Asked. For a reason to stop hiding. Looked at with an intensity that made her feel very small. Your ship arrived damaged and desperate, fleeing from the... You came here looking for help, not knowing that we could provide it. But we can, Captain. We very much can. Before could respond, a man in a white coat approached them. He was tall and thin, with glasses perched on his nose and a friendly smile on his face. Ah, Admiral, he said, are these our guests? Wonderful, wonderful. I am Dr. Minu. I will be helping with your medical needs and making sure your stay is comfortable. He looked at the crew with genuine curiosity. You must be exhausted and hungry. When did you last eat properly? Tried to remember. 3 days, perhaps. Our food supplies were damaged in the attack. Dr. Minu's eyes widened. 3 days, that will not do at all. Come, come, we will feed you first, then we will talk about repairs and alliances and all those serious things. He led them to a dining hall where human cooks had prepared food specifically designed for biology. How the humans knew what could eat, did not know, but she was too hungry to question it. The food was strange but delicious. There were grains and vegetables and something called fish that found particularly enjoyable. But the strangest thing came at the end of the meal, when Dr. Minu brought out small cups filled with a dark, steaming liquid. This is coffee, he said proudly. It is a human tradition. We drink it for energy and for comfort. Took a cup and sipped it cautiously. His eyes went wide. This is very strong. Dr. Minu laughed. Yes, yes, humans need it to function. We are strange creatures who fight against sleep. Took another sip, then another. By the end of the cup, his hands were shaking slightly, but he asked for more. Later, when the meal was finished and the crew was being shown to their temporary quarters, found herself alone with Admiral in the observation room. Admiral said, I must know, why are you helping us? We are strangers, we came here uninvited. Looked out at the stars. Because they are coming for everyone eventually. Because we have watched them destroy civilizations while the galaxy does nothing. Because we are tired of hiding. She turned to face. And because when someone crashes at our door, bleeding and desperate, we do not turn them away. That is not who we are. She placed a hand on shoulder. Rest now, Captain. Tomorrow we will discuss how to save your people. Felt tears forming in her eyes. She had come here expecting nothing. She had found something she did not have a name for yet. Hope, perhaps, or maybe friendship. "Thank you," she whispered. Nodded. "Welcome to Earth, Captain. Things are about to get interesting." Repair Bay was enormous. Had seen shipyards before on her, places where engineers carefully maintained and repaired vessels with precision and patience. This was different. This was chaos that somehow worked. Human engineers swarmed over the pale horizon like insects, shouting to each other in their native languages, dragging equipment and materials with incredible speed. Sparks flew constantly. Machines roared and hummed. And in the middle of it all stood a man named the Chief Mechanic, with oil on his face and joy in his eyes. "Beautiful ship," he said to as they watched the work together. "Really beautiful, but also," he searched for the right word, "inefficient, no offense." Was not offended, she was fascinated. "What do you mean?" Pointed at the exposed engine section where human technicians were removing the damaged FTL drive. "Your faster-than-light system uses a quantum folding method, very elegant, very smooth, also very slow and very fragile," he grinned. "We are going to replace it with something better." "Better how?" "Faster, stronger, angrier." Did not understand what angrier meant in the context of engines, but over the next several days she learned. The humans did not simply repair the pale horizon, they transformed it. The old FTL drive was replaced with something the humans called a skip drive. Explained that instead of smoothly folding space like the method, the skip drive essentially punched holes in reality and forced the ship through them. It was rougher, he admitted, but it was also 3 times faster and nearly impossible to damage. The hull plating was reinforced with a human alloy that had never seen before. It was lighter than steel but stronger than anything in her database. When she asked what it was made of, just shrugged and said, "Secret family recipe." But the biggest changes were the weapons. A man named the weapons officer showed the new systems they were installing. He was a serious man with a calm voice and eyes that had seen combat. "Your ship originally had plasma lances and particle beam arrays," he said. "Good weapons, effective against most enemies." He paused. "Not effective against the—" "What do you suggest instead?" asked. Smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a predator. "Kinetic weapons, rail guns, mass drivers." He led her to a testing range where a weapon demonstration had been arranged. On one side sat a piece of armor, captured from a previous battle. On the other side sat a human rail gun, a long metal tube connected to massive power systems. "They use energy shields," explained. "Very good at stopping heat and radiation. Our weapons do not use heat or radiation." He pressed a button. The rail gun fired. There was no flash, no beam of light, just a sound like thunder and then nothing where the armor had been. The metal had been completely destroyed, scattered into fragments across the testing range. "Mass moving at high speed," said simply. "You cannot shield against physics." Stared at the destruction. How fast was that projectile moving? 15% of light speed. She felt cold. Weapons development focused on precision and control. The humans had taken a different path. They had built weapons designed simply to destroy. "Is this what you will give us?" she asked quietly. Nodded. 3 rail gun batteries, point defense systems, missile pods for long-range engagement. He placed a hand on her shoulder. "When you face the again, they will not find the same ship they attacked before." While learned about human engineering, discovered human pilots. Her name was a lieutenant in the First Fleet, and she was perhaps the most confident person had ever met. She flew a small, fast attack craft called a Viper, and she moved through space like she had been born there. "Your people fly very carefully," said as she showed the flight simulators. "Very safe, very predictable." "Predictable is good," said. "Predictable means you survive." Laughed. "Predictable means the enemy knows where you will be. Unpredictable means the enemy is dead before they can react. She showed him human flight tactics and felt his stomach turn. Humans flew aggressively, dangerously, pushing their ships to the absolute limits. They used asteroids and debris as cover. They flew directly at enemies before breaking away at the last moment. They treated every battle like a personal challenge. "This is insane," said after watching a simulation of a human squadron destroying a superior enemy force through sheer aggression. "Maybe," agreed, "but we are still alive and our enemies are not." The crew spent 2 weeks on orbital station. During that time, they learned many things about humans. They learned that humans processed fear and sadness through humor, making jokes about terrible things to take away their power. They learned that humans formed friendships quickly and valued loyalty above almost everything else. They learned that humans slept very little and worked constantly, driven by something they called coffee and something else they called spite. Dr. Minu explained spite to one evening over dinner. "Sometimes," he said, "humans will do impossible things simply because someone told them it could not be done. We call this spite. It is perhaps our greatest motivation." Thought about this. So if I told a human they could not defeat the Minu smiled. They would make it their personal mission to prove you wrong. On the 14th day, a message arrived from High Command. Read it alone in her quarters, and when she finished, she sat in silence for a long time. The message was simple and terrible. There had begun a full invasion of. The defense fleet was overwhelmed. Cities were burning. Millions were dying, and there was nothing anyone could do. Found Admiral in the command center and showed her the message. The Admiral read it without expression. "How long do they have?" asked. "Days, maybe hours." Nodded slowly, then she looked up with fire in her eyes. "Then we had better move quickly." She activated her communication system. "This is Admiral calling Grand Admiral, Priority Alpha. They have invaded. I am requesting immediate deployment of all available battle fleets." There was a pause, then a deep male voice responded. "Admiral, this is Grand Admiral, request approved. First, second, and third battle fleets will be ready to deploy within 6 hours. Another pause. "It is time the galaxy learned who we are." Felt her heart racing. "How many ships is that?" Smiled. It was a warrior's smile. "Over 400. Legs felt weak. She had come to Earth hopping for repairs and mercy. She had found something else entirely. She had found an army. The gathering of the human fleet was something would remember for the rest of her life. She stood on the observation deck of orbital station and watched as ships emerged from behind planets, from asteroid bases, from hidden dockyards scattered throughout Sol system. They came in waves. Patrol ships first, then destroyers, then cruisers, and finally the massive battleships that formed the heart of human military power. 412 ships in total. Each one bristled with weapons. Each one carried crews that had trained for this moment their entire lives. "We have been waiting," Admiral said, standing beside. "For decades, we have been waiting for a reason to reveal ourselves. The galaxy thinks we are children. Today, they learn otherwise." A shuttle arrived to transport them to the flagship, a colossal vessel named the Eternal Soul. It was the largest ship had ever seen, nearly 2 kilometers long, its hull covered in armor plating and weapon arrays that made it look like a fortress that had learned to fly. Grand Admiral met them in the command center. He was an older man, his hair at the temples, his face lined with years of responsibility. But his eyes were sharp and clear, the eyes of someone who had spent a lifetime preparing for war. "Captain," he said, his voice calm and measured, "I have read the reports about your encounter with the. I am sorry for your losses." "Thank you, Grand Admiral. I understand you wish to join the fleet and guide us to your." Straightened her back. "Yes, sir. My crew and I know space better than anyone, and we have a debt to repay." Studied her for a long moment, Then he nodded. "Very well, the pale horizon will serve as our navigation guide. Your crew will be given honorary ranks in our fleet." He paused. "Can your people fight?" "Yes," said without hesitation. "We can fight." "Good, you will need to." The preparations for departure took 6 hours. During that time, watched the human crews work with silent efficiency. There was no panic, no fear. These people had been preparing for this moment their entire lives. They knew what they were doing. The pale horizon took its place in the formation, looking small and fragile among the human warships, but had assured that their vessel was no longer fragile. The human upgrades had transformed it into something dangerous. Sat at the navigation console, his hands steady despite the coffee flowing through his system. Lieutenant had transferred to the pale horizon as a liaison officer, and she sat beside him with a confident smile. "Nervous?" she asked. "Terrified," admitted. "Good, fear keeps you sharp." She patted his shoulder. "Stay on my wing when we arrive. We will watch each other's backs." Was in the engine room, monitoring the new skip drive with something close to love. Had come aboard as well, claiming he wanted to see his work in action. Suspected he simply wanted to be part of the battle. When all preparations were complete, Grand Admiral addressed the entire fleet. "Warriors of Earth," his voice came through every speaker on every ship. "For 150 years we have watched the galaxy. We have seen species rise and fall. We have seen empires conquer and destroy. We have seen the spread like a disease, consuming everything they touch." Listened, feeling the weight of his words. "Today we stop watching. Today we act. The people are under attack. They did not ask for this war. They do not deserve this fate, and we will not allow it to continue." A cheer rose from the human crews, loud and fierce. They have never faced humanity. They do not know what we are capable of. They do not know our strength, our technology, or our resolve. His voice hardened. "Today they learn. Today we teach them a lesson they will never forget." Another cheer, louder than before. "All ships prepare for FTL jump. Destination, system. May fortune favor the brave." The skip drives activated across the fleet. Felt a strange sensation, like being pulled in every direction at once, and then the stars stretched into lines of light. The journey that should have taken 3 weeks by normal FTL methods took 6 hours. 6 hours. Could not believe it. She asked to check the calculations 3 times, but the answer was always the same. The human skip drives had crossed an impossible distance in an impossibly short time. "How?" she whispered. Shrugged. "Human engineers do not like waiting, so they found shortcuts." When the fleet emerged from FTL at the edge of the system, his heart broke. Her hung in the distance, surrounded by warships. She could see the fires burning on the surface, entire cities reduced to ash. The orbital defense platforms had been destroyed, their wreckage floating like bones in the darkness. The defense fleet was in pieces, a few surviving ships fighting desperately against impossible odds. And there were so many. Counted at least 600 warships, arranged in a formation designed to squeeze the life out of her world. "Grand Admiral," came the voice of a commander over an open channel. "We detect your fleet. 400 ships against our 600. You are outmatched. Withdraw now and we will ignore this intrusion." His response was calm and cold. "Commander, I am Grand Admiral of Earth's combined fleets. This system is now under human protection. You have one chance to withdraw. There will not be a second warning." Laughter came through the channel. "Humans, you are the primitives from the isolated world. You are insects playing at war. We have conquered 100 species. You will be the 101st. Smiled. It was not a kind smile. "I was hoping you would say that." He cut the channel and addressed his fleet. "All ships, battle stations, weapons free. Show them what humanity is capable of." 400 human warships powered their weapons. The darkness of space lit up with the glow of rail guns charging, missiles arming and shields activating. Gripped her command chair as the pale horizon moved into formation with Lieutenant's squadron. "This is it," said over the comm. "Stay close, fight hard, and whatever you do, do not die. I hate paperwork." Laughed despite his fear. "I will do my best." In the distance, the fleet began to move, confident in their numbers. They had never lost a battle. They did not expect to lose this one. They were wrong. Grand Admiral gave the order that would change the galaxy forever. All ships attack. Human fleet moved like a single living creature. 400 ships surged forward in perfect formation, their weapons systems already firing before they could react. The first volley was devastating. Hundreds of rail gun projectiles, each one moving at 15% of the speed of light, tore through shields like they did not exist. Energy shields were designed to stop heat and radiation. They were not designed to stop simple mass moving at impossible speeds. Ships exploded across the battlefield, 20 in the first 10 seconds, 40 more in the next 30. The enemy fleet, so confident moments before, suddenly found themselves facing something they had never encountered, an enemy they could not stop. Captain's battleship Soul's Fury led the charge, pushing directly through the line like a blade through flesh. Watched from the pale horizon as the massive vessel absorbed enemy fire without slowing, its armor designed specifically to dissipate the heat-based weapons the favored. "Their weapons are useless against us," reported from the engine room, her voice filled with amazement. "The human armor converts their energy attacks into harmless heat. We are barely taking damage." They were not prepared for this. For thousands of years, they had conquered species that used similar technology, energy weapons against energy shields. The strongest shield won, but the humans had changed the rules. They had built ships that laughed at energy weapons, and they had built weapons that ignored shields entirely. The pale horizon fought alongside Lieutenant's squadron, weaving through debris and enemy fire. Piloted the ship with skills he did not know he had, following's lead through maneuvers that should have been impossible. "Enemy fighter group on your left," called out. Rolled the ship and fired the new rail guns. 2 fighters vanished in flashes of light. "Nice shot," laughed. "For a navigator, you fight pretty well." Kept the engines running at maximum efficiency, coaxing every bit of power from the human modifications. Worked beside her, making adjustments and repairs faster than should have been possible. "This ship is beautiful," he shouted over the noise. "I love this ship." The battle raged for 2 hours, but the outcome was clear from the beginning. They outnumbered the humans, but numbers meant nothing when your weapons could not hurt the enemy and their weapons could not be stopped. Ship after ship fell to human rail guns and missiles. The commanders screamed orders, tried to reorganize, tried to retreat, but the humans would not let them escape. Admiral coordinated the fleet with calm precision, directing squadrons to weak points in the enemy formation, ensuring that no ship could flee to warn others. "This is not a battle," she said quietly. "This is a lesson." The turning point came when Grand Admiral ordered Protocol Hammer. 100 human capital ships aligned themselves in a single formation, their main weapons all pointed at the command vessel, a massive dreadnought that had directed the invasion. "Fire," said. 100 rail guns fired simultaneously. 100 tungsten projectiles, each one the size of a small building, accelerated to nearly 20% of light speed. They converged on a single point in space. The dreadnought did not explode. There was no fire, no debris, no wreckage. The ship simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there. The next moment it was gone, converted into atoms by the sheer kinetic force of the impact. The remaining ships stopped fighting. Some tried to flee. Human interceptors caught them before they could enter FTL. Others surrendered, powering down their weapons and waiting for capture. A few continued fighting out of desperation, but they were destroyed quickly and efficiently. When the last enemy ship fell silent, the battlefield was quiet. 347 ships destroyed, 253 captured. Not a single one escaped to carry word of what had happened. The humans had lost 31 ships, thousands of lives. It was not a victory without cost, but it was a victory. Looked at the wreckage floating in space and felt tears streaming down her face. Her was damaged, burning in places, but it was still there. Her people were still alive. Defense Forces, Admiral's voice came over all channels. This is Admiral of Earth's First Fleet. The invasion has been stopped. Medical ships and relief supplies are on their way. You are safe now. The response came from the surviving commanders, their voices shaking with emotion. Earth Forces, we do not know how to thank you. We thought we were going to die. You are not going to die, said firmly. Not today, not while we are here. The days that followed were filled with recovery and rebuilding. Human medical teams descended on, treating the wounded and providing supplies. Human engineers helped repair damaged infrastructure. Human ships maintained a protective perimeter around the system, ensuring that no reinforcements could approach. The High Council, which had watched the entire battle from their bunker, requested a formal meeting with Grand Admiral. Was present when the two leaders met. The council elder, an ancient with scales turned silver by age, bowed deeply too. Grand Admiral, the elder said, we have watched empires rise and fall for 10,000 years. We have never seen anything like what your people did today. You owe us nothing. We are strangers to you, and yet you came. Bowed in return. They believe that the galaxy belongs to the strong. They believe that the weak exist only to be conquered. We disagree. He straightened and looked at the elder with steady eyes. Humanity will not stand by while innocent people suffer. That is not who we are. Then who are you? Smiled, we are Earth, and we protect our friends. A formal alliance was signed that day between and Earth. It was the first of many. In the weeks that followed, other species who had suffered under aggression sent messages to humanity, asking for help, asking for protection, asking to join the alliance. The humans accepted them all. Engineer stayed on Earth for 6 months, studying human engineering techniques. When she returned she was the most knowledgeable technical expert in her species' history. She would spend the rest of her life teaching others what she had learned. Became the fleet's primary expert on human tactics. He also became Earth's first official coffee importer, establishing a trade route that would make him surprisingly wealthy. Admiral was given the title Friend of, an honor not granted to an outsider in 10,000 years. She wore the ceremonial medal at every formal occasion for the rest of her career. And Captain returned to space, commanding the rebuilt Pale Horizon, now a symbol of the alliance between two worlds. One evening, as her ship orbited Earth before departing on a new mission, joined her on the observation deck. He carried 2 cups of coffee, as he always did now. When we came here, said softly, we were dying, we expected nothing. And instead we got repairs, said, and upgrades. And coffee. And a full battle fleet, smiled. Humans are strange creatures. Took a sip of her coffee, the bitter taste now familiar and comforting. They have a saying, if you are going to crash somewhere, crash at a friend's house. We did not crash, said, we were found. Nodded slowly, looking at the blue planet below. Such a small world, such an ordinary-looking place, and yet it had changed everything. In the darkness of space, a single transmission was traveling outward, reaching every controlled system. It was a message from Earth, simple and clear. We know who you are, we know what you have done, we are coming. The galaxy had been watching humanity for 200 years, believing them to be primitive and harmless. The galaxy was wrong. And now the galaxy would learn the truth. Humanity was awake. Humanity was angry, and humanity had a lot of friends to protect. The pale horizon turned toward the stars and jumped to FTL, leaving Earth behind but carrying its spirit forward. The universe would never be the same.